Hello everyone, welcome to a tutorial I'm making for animation without using a lot of complex programs. A lot of animation programs are very expensive and complex and difficult to use, and so I just generally use very simple programs like MS Paint and Movie Maker and stuff to animate, and I want to show you all how to do that. So, I mostly animate using sprites, which are basically these. Every motion you make has to be drawn in a separate picture. So, well, you have to draw every single motion separately. It's not where you can just rotate it and it'll face a different way, like a 3D model. So it's a lot more difficult, and oftentimes you'll have to make many sprites like these ones. Um, your sprites can be different levels of complexity, like as you can see these three here. As I've progressed in skill, I've gone from this style, which uses various outlines um, and very simple colors. But over time, I ended up moving more over to this style, which uses, instead of black outlines, it uses outlines that are a darker shade of the color of whatever it's an outline of. It takes a bit more skill to pull this off, and I usually do increased shading with it. But recently I've moved a bit more toward this style, which uses no outlines at all, and instead uses very complex shading to achieve a more three-dimensional looking effect. But if you're just starting out, you'll probably want to choose this type of, this level of complexity right here, which is far easier. The first, I also have this here, which uses, it's a version of this sprite that I modified to use only the 4 shades of gray that are available on a Nintendo Game Boy, because I was planning to use this in a Game Boy style animation. Still not sure if I'm gonna end up doing that. Anyway, about a month ago or so, I held a small little contest for designing a character that I'd use as an example for this tutorial. The winner was this. I think it's pretty cool. Yeah, I think you do this with pencil and scanned it into the computer, but I chose this for the character that I always sprite today. It's nice and simple, and an easy humanoid shape that I can draw. I was also submitted this picture right here, and honestly, this is a really well done drawing. And I really like it. It's far too complex for me to use in a sprite, but shout out to the person who made that. It's quite skilled. I like it. But anyway, back to the actual animation tutorial. So for the first thing I want to show you is basically what I do when I want to make a sprite of perhaps a drawing or something that I've done. Supposing I don't have a physical copy on hand, what I will normally do is pull on a Windows 7 and up. You can put 2 windows on the sides of the screen by pulling them up against the side, and they will each take up equally half of the screen. This is the method I use to get both windows in position for me to start spriting. Next, we want to decide whether or not we want to make the sprite completely original or actually from another piece of artwork. For example, many of the sprites that I make are actually basically traced off of these. These are sprites from old Game Boy Color Pokemon games, and I use these a lot when I am making a sprite of something. Some people criticize me for not having quite original art, but I honestly, the finished products are usually different enough from the original that I don't think they could even be considered copyright infringement. And to be honest, I don't really care when people criticize me, but if we but the method that I use using these, it's just a lot easier for other people to pick up and use without having to have too much practice. as opposed to doing it all by scratch, which is why I'm using it for this tutorial right here. So first of all, you look at maybe the pose or posture and size of the thing you want to sprite, and you find something probably about similar to that. This one looks like it'll work. Alright, so maybe we can zoom in here. So next thing I do is I'll usually select my colors. You don't want to just pick colors off of this, you want to pick one color and then make a full square of these, because oftentimes colors like these are very blurry and you'll end up selecting multiple colors at once. You'll end up selecting multiple colors, and multiple colors don't really blend well in paint, so I wouldn't recommend doing that. But basically what you do is, first of all, you want to, well, perhaps instead of doing the color first, a good thing to start with would be to retrace the maybe the hoodie. As you can see in here, this hoodie has rolled up sleeves, so of course I'll go in here and reshape the character to look that way with rolled up sleeves. Alright, well, I finished that, and as you can see, I've also made his arms slightly thinner under the hoodie sleeves, so that to give the impression that the hoodie sleeves go out a bit over the, what's it called, the other inside sleeves. So now that I've finished shaping the hoodie the way I want it, I'll probably go in here and a lot of old games use a technique called dithering, which is basically that little checkerboard style of shading that you can see right there. And it works well if you're limited to very few colors, but since we have an abundance of colors, what we're going to do here is not use dithering, because it gets kind of annoying when you're trying to recolor things, as you can see there. But now, I guess most of what you do here is just recoloring the sprite to make sure it looks like the sprite. It's a lot of this should be self-explanatory, and so I'm only going to really go into detail on the stuff that I think really needs a bit more of a detailed explanation. So a lot of this I'll just leave up to your own interpretation on how to do this, but if there's something that I feel isn't obvious or apparent to whoever's using it, then I will probably explain that. But if there's some things that I don't really elaborate on very much, that you think should get more, that you think I should probably explain a bit more, feel free to ask questions and comments. I might even make a follow-up video just to explain basically anything you might have questions about, so feel free to ask questions. Anyway, I guess I don't really have much to say here other than just, oh yeah, right now, shading. Shading is something that you're definitely going to want to know how to do, but when you have a color selected, then you can just go up here to edit colors and change it to lighter or darker, and I've already made a darker one, so I'll make a slightly lighter one right here, and you can add it into, and shading is might be difficult at first, but you get the hang of it pretty quickly. This becomes a lot more important as you make more complex styles of as you get into more complex styles of sprites, because, well, for me, more complex basically means having less outlines and better shading, and so you're going to want to know how to do shading as you progress. So if you aspire to become more skilled in this or whatever, then you're going to want to practice shading. It gets very important. A lot of the time when you're making different levels of shading, something I find very helpful is I make sure to keep all the colors in like their own little color palette pile thing there. So for example right here, I'm gonna make a slightly darker shade of this person's skin. And actually, you know what, I think I'll make this the light shade, this the medium shade, make a darker one. But as you can see, it's very useful to have a bunch of different colors of shading, or different shades of each color, just right here for whenever you need them. I find it very useful when I'm making sprites, because you can just have all those colors there, and you don't need to try and find a part where you've used that color before. Anyway, I've gone and shaded in I've gone and colored the sleeves here, but anyway, now you'll probably notice the hat here is very different from what we have here with the cool hair, I guess. But what we need to, so what I am going to do is, instead of completely redrawing the hair, I'm going to go in here and find someone who has similarly cool hair, and, okay, where is, give me a second, and we're going to just take the other person's hair, and, well, I guess this one will have to do, and we'll just paste it up here. What I want to do is I want to remove the face that comes with this hair, so that we can just take the hair and just kind of plop it right on top of that person's hat. I know this hair doesn't quite look like the hair of the character, but we can modify it a bit, like so. But yeah, if you're gonna do this style of spriting, it's very important to know how to take little tidbits of other sprites and put them on top of your sprite. And sometimes you'll have to modify them a little bit, which is what we're doing here. But it's the most efficient way I have found to do this type of spriting. I do this a lot with people whose postures that I need that I can't find in my regular stockpile of sprites. I'll go to the I'll just swap together random like bits of hair and postures and basically just body parts that fit with the character I'm trying to make a sprite of. So it's a good skill to practice. Well, I suppose not so much as... I suppose not that much of a skill, but still you get my point. Now, it usually won't fit perfectly, and you will have to modify it some more after you put it on the character's head. So this works for more than just humans. I've made lots of creatures by just swapping together random bits and pieces of like Pokemon and such. But anyway. Alright, now I've got the hair mostly colored in, but still need to do the shading for the hair. The hair is difficult to shade, to say the least. It's a bit different, and you don't want it looking like just some mop of rubber or something that was just plopped down on someone's head, but you'll get the hang of it after a while. If the shades of hair are very similar to each other, then it's gonna be kind of difficult to tell them apart, but it's manageable. Pants can be somewhat difficult to shade if you have pockets and such things like that, because you'll have to find out basically how to make the pockets stand out without like making them just Well, I guess this isn't much of a problem if you're using an outline, but when you get to, as you can see, the pockets here are quite obvious, but as you get to about here, it becomes more difficult to shade them in properly, and it becomes somewhat more difficult because, well, these ones I kind of broke the no outline rule, as you can kind of see, but I think it's worth it to make the pockets look visible, I suppose. But for this character, he doesn't really have too many pockets, and if you're using outlines, it won't be much of a problem in the first place, so yeah. A lot of the time when spriting, one of the more annoying things you might come across is the fact that basically, if you are drawing a character with pants or shorts, you may have to switch them from pants or shorts. Like for example, we're drawing a character here that has pants, but the sprite we're making of him has shorts. So one of your options is to just go in here and draw some pants on him, like I'm doing right here. But another of the options, which I probably won't showcase because it wouldn't serve much purpose after drawing these pants, is to actually go strip some pants off another sprite and use those as the legs instead of the original. Although sometimes this leads to certain disparities in height between sprites you make, but it's sometimes easier than having to redraw pants on individuals and shorts. So I use both methods sometimes, and they both work. Okay, now I am finished. As you can see, I've just gone in and cleaned up all the little details that basically from this character here. But now that I've gone in and fixed all the little details, I'm going to show you how to make basically what is the next level of complexity for the sprite. Or no, maybe I'll do that in a separate video. But anyway, that's how to make a sprite from from an amalgamation of other sprites. I will likely make another video in the future about how to do sprites from scratch. But anyway, I hope you all enjoyed, and oh wait, hey, I didn't miss the spot. No, there we go. Sorry, that was bugging me. But I hope you all enjoyed, and thanks for watching, and I hope this helped. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them out in the comments. And I also do speed paints, so let me know what I should paint next, because I'm constantly running out of ideas. Otherwise, I'd probably be uploading them a bit more often. But thanks for watching. Have a good day or night or whatever time you're watching this. And well, I'll see you all in the next video. Bye.